Hi, hello.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. It's a real pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm becoming exceedingly mildly obsessed with your new record here.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Everything sounds so good. I feel like there's probably a play on that title. I'd wondered if you made the hard choice. Is it record or record?
I mean, it's deliberately ambiguous. I tend to say record, but I guess, one of the things I'm saying about this is because I don't tour and I don't play live anymore, the thing I do is I record, and I've made a record. So, it's both those things. It's kind of drawing attention to the bit of music that I do still get engaged with.
I've talked to a lot of artists lately about sort of pulling back from touring, and for various reasons, some out of necessity, financial necessity, and some because they've just made that choice in their life for whatever reason. And I gotta say, as a fan, I'm not let down by that. Like, if it means that I get more music, like that's a big payoff for me.
Well, that's good to hear, because I hate feeling like, it looks like I'm, I don't know, not committed enough or not trying enough, because I always feel like, for me, especially now where I am this stage in my life, working in the studio is where I feel I give of my best. And, I feel confident in the studio. I feel in control, and I feel like I can come up with loads of ideas. So to me, it feels like a really positive thing just to make that a strength, work on the area of music where I feel I can give my best. So, yeah, I don't like feeling like, it looks like I'm letting anyone down. I hope it doesn't.
Interesting with that, then, the record, of course, starts in this great single Queen, but there's that opening line, "Here I go again, down that road again."
Yeah.
Which is a really good way to start a record and a song, by the way. But is that sort of lead into what you're talking about here? Is that getting back into the machine again?
Yeah, it is a little bit. I mean, when I started out making the record and recording that song, I didn't necessarily know that would be the opening track. But once we'd finished and I looked at them all and, listened to them all in different orders, and I just thought, look, that's the perfect way to start the record. It's like I've been away for a little while, but here I go again. There's almost an element, I think, of me sounding slightly surprised as well. How did I get here again? And I was slightly surprised. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I didn't know I was on my way to making another album. I only had a couple of songs at that stage, and I was feeling, maybe I won't make another album for quite a long time. And then I got very inspired very quickly, and the rest of the songs came together very fast. I'm excited to be doing it, but just as surprised as anyone.
It's interesting, I guess, to hear that too, because I know, creative people, you sort of have the need to be creative and to know that you're not going to be touring, and that there's a possibility that maybe there's not a record on the way. I don't know. Are you comfortable enough in your life where that's not a scary sensation, or was that ever sort of like, oh no?
It's something you have to learn to live with. I think, both Ben and I, having, been doing music for a long time, we've got used to those gaps in between the projects and those lulls when, you don't feel like you're working hard, and those times when the ideas don't come. And it can be scary, but when you've sort of been through it a few times, you just have to trust that even if you haven't got an idea at the moment, that, another one will be along at some point. It might not be immediately, but, hopefully something will come. So, yeah, you have to try and persuade yourself to be relaxed about it.
So you say the moment of inspiration finally did hit. What was the culprit, if there was one?
It's hard to ever, pin it down, but strangely, it was to do with, getting, this sounds weird, but to do with getting depressed about world events and politics, and, this feeling of everything, I don't know, speeding up and becoming very extreme, and the news starting to feel quite overwhelming. And like a lot of people, I was getting sucked into that, feeling like I was constantly looking at my phone, seeing a news alert, a news flash going off, breaking news, going back to social media, and everyone screaming about something. And I just thought, this is starting to drive me mad. And I think, maybe those feelings of helplessness and powerlessness would be best addressed by actually just making something, turning back to that thing I can do, which is I can make music. And I think I'll just feel like I'm offering something positive into the world, and, it'll be a kind of cheering thing to do.
And I read about how you talk about this record, and kind of like all that you write, writing about specifically either female characters or a female character, whether that's you or in character. But I thought, especially with the movements finally getting the attention they deserve. So there's the big negative side that, you're alluding to that I spent most of my year talking about as well, especially over here with Trump and everything. Yeah. But it does seem like there are those positive things that are finally coming out, whether it's Me Too or any of those. And I sort of wonder, like, does that sort of direct the way you write in character at all?
Well, I think it's more to do with that, that weird thing that you just sometimes find yourself in sync with the times, just as at other moments you find yourself out of sync with the times. I've written similar kinds of songs for a very long time now, and there have been periods in the past when I've been writing songs, as you just said, talking about stories about women's lives, sometimes very domestic, sometimes very personal, but usually with a kind of edge of feminism in there. And there have been times in the past where that's made me feel a bit out of sync and like, people didn't want to hear this, that it wasn't the coolest thing to be talking about. But, here we go. We're in another moment where the conversations become public again. And, the good thing at the moment is I feel like, a lot of women are saying things they've been saying for a very long time. But, people are choosing to listen. And there's an atmosphere in which women are being taken seriously and their concerns and their stories are being taken seriously. So, in the midst of that, here I am with this record, which, most of which obviously I wrote 2 years ago, and yet which does, suddenly feel quite in sync with the conversations that are going on everywhere. So it's kind of an accident of timing, but it's also just, I've been talking about this stuff quite a long time. Right. So.
But that's got to feel nice, and again, I was having a conversation with an artist the other day who sort of said the similar thing, like he had written lots of political songs in the past, or songs that, touched on politics, but people really didn't focus on the words back then. It was more just like, oh, that's a catchy song, but now they're finally focusing on those words. Like, that's at least still got to be like, awesome, great, finally.
I've definitely written songs in the past which I thought were being quite overt about something, and literally no one noticed. I mean, I did wonder sometimes whether, maybe I've just been too subtle. I've been, I try not to write. I don't write massively polemical songs. I don't want to hit people over the head with a sledgehammer. I'm also trying to make entertaining pop music. But sometimes in the past, perhaps I have written songs that were very subtle. And this time around, there are at least 2 or 3 lyrics on the album which are much more direct and where obviously no one could miss the point. And I think I'm quite pleased that I've done that. I would hate at this moment to have a record to be coming out there where I, felt like I hadn't completely said what I thought, or that it could be misinterpreted or not be clear. So if nothing else, at least I feel this time around, I've on a few songs I've been pretty direct.
I will turn flip the coin here, because you talk about you still do want to make a great pop record. Electronics play a big part this time around, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with Ewan Pearson, the producer, on 3 or 4 different things now, and we've done a little bit of electronic stuff together, but we've also done quite a lot of more acoustic recording, recording me playing guitar and piano and real drums. But he's more known as an electronic producer and as a DJ and a remixer, and I felt like I perhaps hadn't completely made the most of that before when we'd worked together. So this time I said to him, look, put your electronic hat on. Let's really go for that. We both share a love of the Pet Shop Boys and New Order and Grace Jones records. We just sort of said, let's let that show. Let's make it obvious. It was good fun. And also because, as I said, I was in this mood of wanting to make a record partly to cheer myself up. So, I wanted to make an upbeat record. I wanted to make a record that, when you put it on, it lifted your mood. And for me, a good way of doing that is to, have some beats, head to the dance floor, right. Let's find some joy in the process.
And there were other collaborators. You've pulled on a few of my favorite artists with half of Warpaint and Corinne Bailey Rae.
Yeah.
How did they come into the picture?
Well, Warpaint, that was sheer luck. We started talking about how it would be nice to have a real rhythm section on at least a couple of the songs. And I think I said to you and casually, oh, well, my dream rhythm section would be Stella and Jenny from Warpaint. And he said, oh, yeah, I know Stella. I've got her phone number. So I think he'd worked with her before on something and just got in touch with her. And then again, luckily, they happened to be over in the UK, I think playing Glastonbury. So, they had a couple of days free, and we got them down into the studio. And that was just incredible. We thought they might play on 2 songs. I think Stella ended up playing on about 6 or 7 songs. Cool. Yeah. So she's amazing.
And with Corinne, I mean, one of the great vocalists of our time right there, songwriters as well.
Yeah, I think she's an amazing singer, and sometimes doesn't get the attention I think she deserves just as a singer. So we actually had almost finished the track, and I just thought it needs someone else there singing with me. There's still somewhere else this song could go. And I think there's room for someone who can sing the parts I can't sing and, take this into, just lift it up another level. So she was actually pretty busy and didn't have time to come down to us. She lives in Leeds. So I sent her the track and she did some stuff in her home studio, without any real direction or guidance from me. I just said to her, do what you feel. And, she came up with the vocal arrangement of all the backing vocals. And I thought the track was sounding pretty good already, but once she sent it back, it sounded amazing.
And it's a bit of the centerpiece for the record. Maybe even just not just because of its epicness, but also it's an 8-minute song. Yeah,
it is, and not necessarily intended to be. But we had Stella and Jenny in the studio, and John O'Mar playing guitar, and the 3 of them were all playing live together. We were just recording the track, and the vocal finished, and after about 4 minutes, and they had this groove going that was so incredible that Ewan and I just looked at each other and said, just let them keep playing. Just keep playing, keep playing. So through the glass, we were sort of waving at them, just going, keep going, keep going. And I think we took 11 minutes in total before they sort of started looking at us going, can we stop yet? But they, literally live, they built in all the kind of breakdowns and then building it back up again. And then Jenny doing something amazing on the bass and Jono going mad on the guitar. It was virtually all done live. Yeah. We edited it a little bit just to get it down to 8.5 minutes, but it was incredible. It was just the song just took off.
No, it's Saurus. It really does.
Yeah.
And of course, another one of the songs I'll ask about, it's hard not to, is guitar. I do love it when musicians sort of make reference and pay tribute to other musicians, and of course you've got the Leonard Cohen references in there. That's obviously done on purpose, or just it's sort of seeped in there.
Yeah, I mean, I like referencing other songs because, like most people, they're things that provide sort of landmarks to moments in your life. When you're remembering back to a specific event, you often remember what was playing. And I'm literally describing a night of my life there when, a boy taught me 3 chords on the guitar and we sat and listened to some Leonard Cohen records. I thought he was, the star of the show and the best thing I'd ever met. He was a guitarist in a band. But I think what the song is saying is, what I didn't realize at the time was that the real star of the show was my guitar. I just bought this guitar, and as it turns out, that would be the thing that would change my life. That was the moment that I began to make music myself. From that point on, I started writing songs, I started singing. So it's really a love song to that guitar. The boy just turned out to be incidental. I just thought that would be a nice twist. It starts out and you think it's a kind of sad love song about someone's teenager, but actually, the guitar is the star there.
Yeah, most of them do just become incidental,
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'll go back to Queen, and there was the other line in there that I just love that you put in there is the question, do I ever find love?
Yeah.
And I thought, what a great way to kind of phrase that, because one, it's a great enticement, stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, that's me imagining, how my life could have gone any number of different ways, which I'm sure lots of us have those thoughts sometimes. You think, the sliding doors image, if you'd taken a different path, if you hadn't met that person, would you have done these things? For me, obviously, a lot of that's bound up with the fact that when I met Ben, that affected so much of my life, kick-started a career, my entire adult relationship. But you sort of think, well, but supposing we hadn't met, what would I have done? Would I have formed a band with someone else? Would I have done music at all? So this version of me that exists now, it sometimes feels like that's just one possible version. There could have been other possible alternative versions. And that, I think I'm just looking back with curiosity, really, just wondering.
You mentioned Ben. I was thinking, because a lot of folks, when they get asked about a previous group or something, it usually has to deal with a lot of people that they don't see in their lives, on a daily basis anymore. And I thought, what a unique situation that you have where you probably do get asked about everything but the girl, and it's with a person that you see quite regularly, I imagine. So
yeah, it does make me laugh sometimes when people say, do you think you'll ever get back together with Ben? And I'm like, well, we just had breakfast.
It's like, what a unique situation that I can't name anyone else that sort of has that exact same thing. But yeah.
And it does have an impact on the question, really. The question as to whether we would get back together as everything but the girl is not unrelated to the fact that we, live together as a couple. Living together and working together, which we did for a long time, is not the easiest thing in the world. Right. And, we managed to make it work. And I think we were very lucky. But we're that much older now. We've got 3 kids together. Life becomes complicated enough. And we do have this conversation sometimes in which we admit that actually the space we're in now, where we have, independent working lives from each other, I think is probably quite healthy.
I would imagine it is.
So the thought of going back to that, where we literally do everything together, is quite scary.
Right. Well, I compliments where they're due. I love the music that the two of you made together for those decades. I really love the music that you've been making, especially in the last decade. There are so many good songs that come out of that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Tracey, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Take care, and I'll be awaiting the next record whenever that might come, and another book too, right?
Yes. Yeah, there is another book coming along next year. So yeah, I'm finishing that at the moment as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll be in line.
Great. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.